All right, welcome back to another video, everybody. We've got probably one of the most anticipated updates coming here into the next season of COD Mobile. I'm currently booting up into the test server for the next season that will be coming. And like I said, we've got one of the most anticipated updates, and that is going to be the final nerf to persistence. And this is actually one that I've suggested multiple times, so I'm really happy to hear that that's the one that's being implemented, because just in my opinion, it's the one that would work best. And as you guys can see now, persistence is a blue perk. I'd made that initial suggestion that we move it from perk 1 to perk 3 slot, just so you couldn't be able to actually pair it with hardline. And they actually took it a step further, which blew my mind, and it makes sense why we had to wait so long for this, because it just seems like such a well thought out plan and they executed it perfectly. Once you equip persistence, it's actually going to change the way score streaks work, where you guys can read it right here. Score streaks will be divided into 3 ranks, and you can only equip one of each rank at the same time. Rank 1 score streaks are going to be the initial lower rank streaks that aren't super deadly and game changing. Then we have tier 2, which is like silver, and then tier 3, which are gold. So you guys know typically people will run cluster strike, chopper gunner, and then, you know, napalm, XS1 Goliath, even a VTOL warship if they're feeling weird. Well, you can't pair those together anymore because those are all within the tier 3 category of the persistent streak ranking. And again, you can only have a tier 1, 2, and 3, one for each tier. I feel like that system was a bit confusing with their wording initially on their tweet, so figured to clarify that up a little bit. But this now means that you don't have as much power when you use persistence, because now they're going to be able to still get, you know, a stealth chopper, cluster strike, whatever, if they get enough points, but they're just not going to be able to have multiple of the 3 game-changing streaks. And this is going to be a huge change because it's going to make players who do run persistence a lot less effective, but also they'll have to be a lot more strategic about the streaks that they use. So let's say you could run swarm. The next like most effective streak that you could run, from what I'm seeing, would be a lightning strike, which is cool and all, but in reality it's only good for like 1 or 2 kills off an objective. And that leaves them with just a tier 1 slot to use, so maybe shield turret, shock RC, something that you could basically get without persistence on like a 4 or 5 kill streak. So again, major update for something that the community has been asking to get changed for a long time now. And I just think it's overall a huge dub for Call of Duty Mobile. And man, they've been killing it this year, and this one's really nice to see. I know we're all getting a little bit antsy with COD Mobile about making changes to persistence, and for the most part, they're staying kind of quiet on the matter. But I feel like we all need to give them huge props, because this was probably the best possible outcome they could have done for the game, because persistence is still in it, right? And it still has the opportunity to be effective if a smart player has a good strategy with it, but it's not going to be completely game changing and definitely nowhere as effective as it was beforehand. So I'm really happy to see that they still found a way to include it as a possible meta. But at the end of the day, good players who can consistently get mid-tier streaks are going to do better than the average player who is just using persistence because they can't typically get like a high tier streak. Anyway, that was the first thing I want to go through here on the test server update, just because I know that was like the most anticipated thing. So now I'm just going to go ahead and scroll through and see what all we have new here, because I haven't really like gone through the test build all too much. Oh, and the first thing I'm seeing is the new Oden assault rifle, which I can actually equip. The texture pack for the gun is loaded on here, but it doesn't actually have the icon. So I'm curious, can I use this in the testing range? So if you're unfamiliar with the Oden, it's actually from Modern Warfare 2019, and it's a slow firing but super hard hitting AR. And yes, we do have it here in the test server available to use. So I'd imagine this thing's going to be doing around like 48 damage if I had to take a guess, something like that. 57. What about to the legs? Yeah, 48 to the legs. So it's going to be a 2-tap. This is the full auto fire rate. The recoil is not too terrible on this. It starts going up and to the left and then up to the right afterwards. And I'd imagine throughout the longer ranges, it's going to have like a damage drop off, but for the most part, it should be pretty effective. Okay, so directly to the chest at about 21 meters, this thing is still going to be a 2-hit, but the hitboxes are not too huge on that end because shoulders are going to be 48, so it'll be a 3-tap from this distance, which shouldn't be a problem. Like, the fire rate's very similar to the Mana Works, that the power is much higher. We'll go ahead and test out the different attachments we have, because I'm really curious on the magazine size for this. So we have extended mag A, which is going to give you 5 extra shots, large extended mag B 10, and then we're going to have 2 special type of magazines. Now, I didn't really use this weapon all too much in MW 2019, but I'm assuming those are the two mags that we had in that game previously. So this one, damage at range is increased and suppressed. Pretty cool magazine, probably similar to like the RTC. And then this one's kind of interesting, +1 pellet per shot. I really don't know too much about that, but that one seems like a crazy mag. I guess I can try them out. So this is the +1 pellet per shot. And again, I don't really know what this magazine's necessarily doing, but it hits for a lot less damage than it did before. All right, now that we have the 30 round mag equipped, pretty standard. You have 30 shots instead of 20, and it's back to hitting for 57. The other attachments look relatively standard for the weapon, so we're not going to go through all of those. But the Oden, man, that's a really exciting weapon. I did not even like think about that as a possibility coming to the game. More than likely, I'd have to say this is going to be a really high skill gap weapon because it does have a slower fire rate. But with the fact that it does have the ability to 2-tap and it's a full auto, it's more than likely going to be one of the top 3 weapons in the meta going into the next season. I know for a while in Warzone, that thing was actually crazy. All right, well, hell yeah, that's the AAR coming next season. Let's see what other categories we have. A new SMG, the KSP-45. So this isn't a weapon I'm super familiar with just because I didn't use it all too much in Cold War when it released, but I know a lot of players loved it at launch of that game. And it's similar to the Chickum in the sense that it's a 3-round burst rifle submachine gun. But again, in Cold War, it was actually a pretty decent meta weapon. On the COD wiki page, it just says 3-round burst submachine gun, high damage with moderate recoil. Burst rifle spread is less effective at long range. It makes sense. We have no stats for this weapon besides the fact that it does 24 damage. So this could be a toss-up. It might be like the Cold War weapon that we had seen where it was a burst, but at the same time, COD Mobile has made changes to guns before. A perfect example is the FR556 in MW 2019. It was a burst, but in our game, it's strictly a full auto. The KSP-45 could potentially be like the UMP-45 and actually be a full auto SMG. We'll only have to wait to see. And the only reason I say that is because, you know, it's full auto here in the testing range with no textures, but to my knowledge, anytime that this has ever happened, it's always just said 30 bullets and been a full auto. So I don't think that will truly represent the weapon, but whenever it actually comes out, we'll see. Exciting either way, we're getting 2 of the most popular class weapons, an AR and an SMG next season. No shot. Okay, we're actually getting a pistol as well, and this one, the LCAR. I'm incredibly hyped for this because this was one of my favorite pistols in all of COD. So this thing originates from Black Ops 3, and like I said, in that game, it was a full auto. I loaded up here in the testing range. There's no textures again, but I just feel like this is worth mentioning. It's a burst here. So I don't know if COD Mobile is going to be changing it to a burst. I hope not, because we don't have any full auto pistols at the moment. But this thing was incredible in Black Ops 3. I went on so many nuclear streaks with it as a secondary just because it was that good up close. As far as the COD wiki goes, the only description is fully automatic machine pistol, medium fire rate with modest damage. For people who played Black Ops 2, this was essentially the futuristic version of the Cap 40s, which were a lot of players' favorite secondary. Black Ops 2 definitely had the best secondaries because we had, as I had mentioned, the Cap 40s, which were nuts. We had the B-23R, the TAC 45, the 5.7, and all of those, every single one felt solid. Next up, we have a new tactical grenade, the Echo grenade. This one I'm not familiar with. A grenade that uses sound waves to detect enemy locations. Oh, okay, that's wild. We'll have to test that for sure. Okay, so I just joined a pub so we could showcase how this thing actually works. So we'll toss it outside and see what it does. It's like multiple pings right there, and it also does, I'd assume, 1 damage. Just to test out the Oden a little bit, let me also shoot some players. So that was a 2-tap at that range. Chest hits, of course. 2-tap. I wonder how much this actually does to the head. I think it's like around 60. I'd imagine this is going to be one of my favorite weapons. I typically love the slower fire rate, like hard-hitting guns. You know, with me being a huge fan of the ASM, Man of War, DRH, this one fits right up the alley. I want to test this grenade one more time just to see like how big the radius actually is and what it looks like when you ping somebody. So it does look like you're going to be able to like ping them through walls, but let me just toss it at them. Oh, wow. Okay. So that was 2 pings on the player. I don't know if they ended up, yeah, walking further back or something. Let me drop that. So 3 pings, and considering like how close this player is, you can tell that they're not overwhelmingly far. I would honestly say it's a bit on the weaker side that it might not even be worth using. Because we do have the heartbeat sensor, which I think goes just as far, and it has unlimited uses. So as far as a recon tactician goes, I feel like it might need to have a little bit bigger of a radius. Not by much, but just slightly. And don't get me wrong, this is definitely going to have some use cases in like competitive S&D, because there's definitely going to be lineup spots where players chuck these just to see if there's a player sitting somewhere. But it doesn't have much of a radius. Overall, I'd say the thing that I'm most excited for upcoming here in this update is going to be the Oden assault rifle, and probably the LCAR, depending of course how it is, because if it is a burst, I'm gonna be a little bit disappointed, but if it's a full auto, that's gonna be game changing for secondaries. Anyway, that is gonna do it here for today's video. I hope you guys all did enjoy. Let me know in the comment section what you're most excited for upcoming here in this update. But with all that being said, that'll do it here for myself, and I'll catch you all in the next one.